My name is Joe Brofman. I'm the chairman of this awards event this year and a member of the Arthur C. Clarke Foundation board. I would like to thank all of you very much for coming to what we hope is another memorable event. We have some, I think, exciting presenters here today and awardees. And I think first I would like to, I'm not sure what's going on there, but we had, you may have seen a video or a series of slides that showed our sponsors, the people who made this evening possible, and I very much would like to thank them for, in many cases, several years of support. Any of you have seen the recent Steve Jobs movie will notice that in the very beginning there is a video clip that we've actually shown here in some of the prior Arthur C. Clarke events taken in 1964, where he foresees what personal computers and the internet will do for the world. And it is remarkably accurate. It's why sometimes we refer to Sir Arthur as the Oracle of Colombo. I would also like to thank Monica Morgan, the executive director of the foundation, for her tireless work, and a great deal of what you see here is really her work and helping to bring all this together. One of our other sponsors, the Sci-Fi Channel, has an exciting event coming up, and we're going to show a video clip here in just a moment. It's the very first adaptation of Arthur C. Clarke's landmark novel, published in 1953, called Childhood's End. It will be made into a 6-hour, it's coming. It will be made into a 6-hour program spread over 3 days, so 2 hours per day, and it will also key in another Sci-Fi Channel premiere of a program called The Expanse. So I think without further delay, we'll key in the video and then we'll get our program started.
There's no need to be afraid.
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 We have come to help mankind.
We have come to help mankind.
We're not come to help mankind.
We have come to help
We're
mankind.
enablers. We're not conquerors.
My name
We're
is
enablers.
Corellin.
My name is
My
Clarke.
name is Corellin.
I am
My name
supervisor
is
for Earth. I am the supervisor.
Under our supervision, you will all flourish here. Under our supervision,
Peace,
you will
health,
all flourish
security
here.
for
Peace,
everyone.
health, security for everyone.
Why are you here?
We need a messenger. A
Why are you
conduit
here?
between the overlords. We need a messenger. A conduit
refuse.
between the overlords
I
and
respect
Earth.
your decision.
What if I refuse? It would go a long way with
I
people.
respect your
Just
decision.
show yourself. It would go a long way with people.
my
If you
appearance.
would just show yourself.
I hope you
Accept
can trust
my
me
appearance.
the way I trust you.
I hope you can trust me.
The way I trust you.
Welcome to the golden age of man. Welcome to the golden age of man. This is what I always hoped it would be.
They're watching us
This is what I always
all the
hoped it would
time.
be.
They're controlled. They're watching us all the time.
He said that they're here to help us.
Mr. Stormbridges, tell us, why won't
He said that
Corellin
they're
show us
here
his
to help
face?
us.
Mr. Stormbridges, tell us, why won't
The earth
Corellin show us
has a new
his face?
destiny. And the earth has a new destiny.
I want to know why they're here and what they have in store for us.
Tell them
I
the
wanna know why
truth
they're here
about
and
what
what
you
they have in
really
store for us.
are. Tell them the
I need to
truth
see who this
about
Corellin
what you
really is.
really are.
I need to see who this Corellin
You
really is.
lied to them. You lied to us all.
Crazy.
do you like your golden age?
So I'm here to help you. The program will air at 7 o'clock on 3 successive nights, December 14th, 15th, and 16th. And without further ado, I would like to turn the podium over to Tedson Myers, our leader and chairman, for his remarks. Tedson.
Suddenly had that feeling that you were going to see the supervisor emerge. If you remember what medieval figure that was supposed to be, horns and all, you wouldn't want me here. I guess the quickest and most accurate way to summarize these remarks would be good evening and goodbye. First of all, it's wonderful to share with all our guests an evening honoring exceptional people and institutions. You can bet, most of you certainly know that events like this just don't happen. They're the result of long hours and short timelines. I have a feeling Joe Brobman was reading my first page, because it's a pleasure to thank Joe and our executive director, Monica Morgan, and he used the word tireless effort and good ideas. Now I'm going to take a step to do something I've never done before. I'm going to tell you about the other board members. First, they're snug at home in England, although one says he's in a pub. Angie Edwards, Sir Arthur's niece, and erstwhile school librarian. Alistair Scott, recent leader of the British Interplanetary Society. Peter Marshall, former Intelsat VP. In California, Ambassador Diana Dugan. And home with a cold, Scott Chase, whom I think so many of you know, the journalist and leader of satellite conferences. Now here, this evening, I'm going to ask them to rise, but I'm going to forgive them. They can sit down afterwards. We can hold the applause. It's unfair to hold them up standing like that. First of course, Joe Brobman, who you just heard from, President and CEO of Omnispace. Thank you, Joe. And Monica Morgan. She's not back though, waving back there because she's still at it, communications industry consultant. All right, Dr. Joseph Pelton, where are you, Joe? An educator of long-standing and a communications world legend. Ed Horowitz, space entrepreneur and recently appointed board member of FirstNet. Tim Logue, our treasurer, Tim, there you go, who is Senior Marketing and Sales Director at Thales Alenia Space. Constance Chatfield Taylor, the President of Flying Colors, back there, live TV satellite program producer. Martin Collins, where's Martin? Right over there, good. Assistant Curator of the Air and Space Museum. Dave Helfgott, thank you, CEO of Phasor Solutions, thank you. And our newest board member this evening, joined us with our first board meeting this afternoon. Many of you, I'm sure you know Mike Nelson, who is now with Cloud Safety, Cloudflare it's called, a cloud information safety company, and a lecturer at Georgetown University. If I've forgotten anybody, shame on me. All right, now, about that goodbye. 13 years before the mast have been a treasure. The Arthur C. Clarke Center for Human Imagination is up and accomplishing things we dreamed of and some we never dreamed of. Even better. Our education and school award programs led by Joe Pelton are thriving. These annual awards, broader in scope than at the outset, are a constant reminder of the lessons and predictions Arthur Clarke bestowed on us. But a few months ago, it crossed my mind that fresh leadership, fresh ideas are essential in any organization. So board member Ed Horowitz took the lead, and he succeeded. Therefore, it is with the greatest personal satisfaction that I can report a change in our ranks to take place mid-January. We are welcoming back a friend and a former board member, the recently retired Chief Operating Officer and Chief Strategic Communication Officer of the Internet Society, Walda Wanger-Roseman. How many of you know? She will be welcoming you to next year's Arthur C. Clarke Awards. How about that, STEM world? I'm compelled to speak about Walda in absentia this evening because, no surprise, she's fulfilling a prior obligation at the ITU in Geneva. Were I to read aloud to you the text of our press release that was issued earlier today, we'd end up postponing this evening's awards. So, Walda Roseman, just briefly, an executive, a strategist, a STEM advocate, an information and communications technology expert. Walda was awarded the ITU's Gold Medal in 2014 for advancing the roles of women in those fields. She's the CEO of Compass Rose International. I won the prize for naming that one. Compass Rose International, a respected international advisory firm that she founded in 1983. Founder and leader of the FCC's first international communications office. Erstwhile, the executive vice president and chief operating officer of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Get the message, this is just marvelous. Senior VP for National Affairs and Planning at National Public Radio. And part of the Office of Government Affairs, former White House Office of Telecommunications Policy. Read the rest, and I'm sure you'll understand our pride. But I bet you can probably imagine my own good feeling, helping start this foundation, holding the fort for many years as executive director out of 2 law firms. And then came the big surprise. See, our first chair, the wonderful John McLucas, had passed away. John had been head of the FAA and Secretary of the Air Force. As John left us, we kept the wheels turning until, concerned, I reminded Joe Pelton that someone had to take over. Yes, that's right, he responded. So I've collected all the votes, Tedson, and you're it. Picture that. 13 wonderful years of making progress and making sense with colleagues you admire, respect, and still can't figure out how they can find the time. Years of chasing out to Colombo for time with Sir Arthur. Remembering that moment when the concept of the Clarke Center, focusing on human imagination, was shared with him. Those 2 minutes when he leaned back in his chair out in the garden, staring at a bright blue sky, wordless, for at least 2 minutes, he suddenly leaned forward and says, "Splendid idea, Tedson, splendid." Or the occasion when he handed me a sealed envelope, asking me to bring it home to She Who Must Be Adored. And after returning home, reading the following: Dear Arden Myers, I am sending Tedson home this Friday, having counted the silverware. How do you put up with him? All best, A.C. Clarke. And that poignant moment when his longtime intellectual lieutenant Malika Gunawardene, stepped out of a Colombo hospital room at 2 in the morning, sat down on a nearby bench, and emailed me the simple words, Sir Arthur Charles Clarke, 1917, 2008. What happened next was the same irony as Americans learning President Reagan had been shot from UK friends watching the evening news. The family with whom Sir Arthur had lived for 50 years on Barnes Place in Colombo, the entire Ekanayake family, discovered that their beloved friends had passed away through a phone call from the Gulf Coast of Alabama. Sometimes I think Sir Arthur would have remarked, but of course that morning's transocean flow was by satellite. And other times I think about this foundation's forward motion from Joe Pelton, John McLucas, the late Fred Durant and Fred Ordway, and myself. And I sometimes think our slow, steady progress, including so many willing colleagues, was just another fulfillment of Arthur Clarke's second law. The only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture a little way past them into the impossible. Thanks for listening. There'll be more because I'm not leaving the board. I'm just sitting at the other end cheering our new chair. But this evening, I'm also cheering for Professor Sheldon Brown, the remarkable director of UC San Diego's Arthur C. Clarke Center for Human Imagination. Winner of our national competition, UCSD opened the center on May 20, 2013. I had a timeline in my head that day. Under Professor Brown's leadership, they were at least 2 years ahead of that shallow dream. Better yet, the university took the unusual step of making the center a mission of almost all the colleges and departments on the campus. Perhaps lately you've overheard the phrase, the military designation, joint base. Joint base this, joint base that. Well, in the UCSD's world, you could recognize that our long-held dream is now Joint Base Clarke.